It began with a bark that froze an entire airport terminal. A German shepherd lunged forward, barking so ferociously that travelers screamed and scattered. The dog wasn't just making noise, it was trying to get someone's attention. And it worked in that moment of chaos. A pregnant woman froze in fear. She had just passed through security and was waiting to board. 7 months along, carrying snacks in one hand and her boarding pass in the other. The dog's eyes locked on her belly. What followed changed multiple lives, but nearly ended two. Most people assumed the dog had gone rogue, that it was poorly trained, agitated, or worse, dangerous. But what they failed to see in those first panic seconds was what the dog saw instantly. Something was very, very wrong. Have you ever seen an animal act like it knew something no one else could? Share your story in the comments. We may include it in our next episode at Gate 12. Melissa Reyes was moments away from flying home to Michigan. She felt fine, if a bit lightheaded. The baby hadn't moved much that morning, but she assumed it was just the altitude or nerves. Then came the bark. Shadow, the service dog in question, wasn't even assigned to Melissa. He was traveling with a retired Army medic, leashed, harnessed, calm until Melissa passed him. That's when he began to tremble, then growl, then pull. He broke free. Passengers screamed. TS reached for weapons. One guard shouted for people to hit the floor. But Shadow didn't lunge randomly. He charged directly toward Melissa and stopped. He circled her, pawed at her leg, went like he was begging. Melissa took a shaky step back and collapsed to her knees. One security officer tackled the dog. Another drew a taser. That's when Officer James Halpern stepped in, former canine handler with 15 years of field experience. He noticed something. The others didn't. The dog isn't attacking, he said. He's alerting. At that same moment, Melissa's face drained of color. She slumped forward. Her purse fell to the ground. Her breathing grew rapid, shallow, erratic. It wasn't a panic attack. It was something worse. Paramedics arrived fast, but they were already behind the clock. Melissa's blood pressure was spiking. She was going into seizure. Her body was slipping into a full-blown preeclampsia, crisis one that could kill her, and the baby in under an hour. Doctors later said that by the time medics reached her, she was 30 minutes away from irreversible brain damage. Shadow had acted just in time. Here's the twist. Shadow wasn't just any dog. He was a retired medical, alert service animal. He'd worked with veterans, trained to detect PTSD-related biochemical shifts. His new handler, quiet, older man named Everett, was simply traveling through the airport. But Shadow had never stopped working. When he passed Melissa, his senses triggered on a biochemical shift, blood pressure, stress hormones, a silent scream from her body. He chose to break command to save her. Melissa was rushed to a hospital less than 5 miles away. She was unconscious when they wheeled her into the emergency room. Doctors wasted no time. An emergency C-section was performed. The baby, a boy, was born with a faint pulse, but breathing. Both mother and son survived. Barely. Melissa regained consciousness 3 hours later. She was groggy, confused, and alive. The doctors were clear. If not for that dog, she wouldn't be. Her husband arrived shortly after, frantic and pale. She almost died, he whispered. I had no idea, and that dog, he wasn't even hers. Thanked Shadow's handler with tears in his eyes. I dismissed her complaints. She said something felt off. I told her to rest. He would later say, those were the words that haunted him most. Initially, some travelers at the airport were furious. They'd seen a dog lunge and assumed it had gone violent. Some even filed complaints. But the truth spread fast. Footage showed Shadow's behavior, precise, focused, even restrained. He never bit. He never growled at anyone else. His sole fixation was Malice and her unborn child. Public sentiment flipped. The complaints were withdrawn. The airport issued a formal apology. Shadow became a local hero. More importantly, Zach sparked something greater. Several airport security agencies reviewed their canine handling policies. A new training module was added across multiple terminals, understanding medical alerts in service animals. Not all barking is aggression. Sometimes it's a call for help. Shadow's trainer explained later, when a trained dog ignores a direct command. That's serious. It means they're escalating. They've detected something critical. Melissa's case wasn't rare. In fact, studies show dogs can detect seizure onset up to 45 minutes before symptoms appear. Some can sense hormonal shifts and stress spikes, linked to cardiac arrest or pregnancy complications. Shadow had no medical file on Melissa. No context. Just scent. Just instinct. That instinct saved a life. Melissa later asked if she could adopt Shadow. Everett, his handler, agreed. He chose her, he said, smiling. He knew before any of us did. Shadow now lives with Melissa's family. Beneath the crib, follows her son everywhere. He never leaves her side during prenatal checkups or even long walks. They didn't buy a dog. They inherited a guardian. Doctors are now exploring deeper research into canine detection of pregnancy-related emergencies. Early studies suggest that medical alert dogs may help identify preeclampsia even before machines can. The key: scent-based detection of nitric oxide and cortisol fluctuations. In one clinical study, dogs trained to detect low blood sugar in diabetics were retrained on hormone profiles of pregnant women. Early results? 87% accuracy. Shadow wasn't trained for that. He just knew. So what does this mean for you? If your dog starts acting strangely around pregnant women, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's nerves or bad behavior. Pay attention. Track symptoms. Follow up. Trust that instinct. Melissa didn't feel pain that morning. There's no cramps, no dizziness. Just a vague sense that something wasn't right. But her body was already screaming only. Shadow could hear it. His bark, once terrifying, is now something Melissa calls the greatest sound she's ever heard. 2 lives saved. 1 bark misunderstood. Next time a dog tries to tell you something, listen harder. And if this story moved, you hit subscribe. We've got another episode coming up about a family cat that sniffed out breast cancer before doctors even found a lump. These are the moments that make you believe instinct. This might be smarter than reason. This video is for informational and storytelling purposes only. Always consult qualified professionals for any medical or emergency concerns.